Committee on Transportation, Infrastructure and Public Safety come to order. Let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Here.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Schroer. Washington. Weber.
Quorum being established, I move that we move into executive session. Having a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye, as opposed no. The ayes have it. We are in executive session. I move that House Committee Substitute for House Bill 247 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Having a second, those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill was presented by Representative Bromley last week. Establishes the 5-year motor vehicle registration option for motor vehicles with a model year that is less than 6 years old. There is a substitute ending in .04C. The changes in the substitute include changing the title to allow to motor vehicles, establishing a subclass of personal property for motor vehicles not registered as historic motor vehicles, and beginning with the 2026 tax year lowers the assessed value of non-historic motor vehicles from 33.3% to 30% of their true value in money, and provides that non-historic vehicles 20 years or older from their model year shall have an assessed value of $200. And it also requires the State Tax Commission to require an assessor to use such publication or the Kelley Blue Book, Edmunds, or any other similar publication, and requires the assessor to use the current year's October issue of such publication. The Act also prohibits an assessor from assessing a motor vehicle for an amount greater than the assessment of such motor vehicle from the previous year, which is, I believe, Representative Reedy has carried over in the House. It also changes the 5-year registration fee to 3 years, according to working with a bunch of these assessors who are interested in that provision, because it created a lot of problems for the assessors' offices. So it moves it from a 2 to a 3-year window, and those are the changes in the substitute. Do I have any questions on the substitute?
Mr. Chairman, does it still have the Space Force license plate in it? Was that different?
I don't think we messed with the Space Force license plate, so you'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Senator. Any other questions? All right, I now move that we do adopt House or Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 247. All those in favor of that motion, second. Having a second. All those in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We've adopted the substitute. I now move that we vote do pass Senate Committee substitute for House Committee substitute for House Bill 247. Do I have a second? Having a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Schroer. Washington. Weber.
Senator Schnelting. That's House Bill, Senate Committee substitute for House Committee substitute for House Bill 247, the motor vehicle bill. By your vote of 7-0, you voted do pass Senate Committee substitute for House Committee substitute for House Bill 247. I now move that House Committee substitute for House Bills 296 and 438 be brought before the committee. Having a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill is presented by Representative Kalberloh, and it modifies school bus endorsements from last week. I think it bumps the number from 70 to 75 for endorsements. Any questions? I now move that House Committee substitute for House Bills 296 and 438 be voted do pass. I have a second. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Schroer. Washington. Weber.
Are you? You're good. Okay. By your vote of 6-1, you voted do pass House Committee substitute for House Bills 296 and 438. I now move that House Bill 810 be brought before the committee. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill is presented by Representative Baker, and it designates the Lloyd Memorial Highway in Newton County. There is a substitute ending in 0.02C. The substitute changes the designation to the Davy and Natalie Lloyd Memorial Highway. We talked to MoDOT about this, and we made it to where we could ensure that we put the names on there that we wanted on there on behalf of Davy and Natalie and the Baker family. So that's all set. We also I am gonna move to vote this consent if everybody's okay with that. So just know that Any discussion on the substitute? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We've adopted the substitute. I now move that Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 810 be voted do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Schroer. Washington. Weber.
By a vote of 7-0, you voted do pass Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 810. I now move that we vote Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 810 consent. Having a second, any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Schroer. Washington. Weber.
By a vote of 7-0, you voted that bill consent. I now make a motion to exit executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are out of executive session. We're going to go into the hearing on bills. We will, I don't know, is Senator Gregory in here?
One of them is. The bigger one.
The smaller one. Since two of the hearings are with senators that are on the committee, I figured we'd go with him, but he's not in here, so. Senator Schroer, you want to start with Senate Bill 142, and you can proceed when you're ready.
Do you want me to move? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Schroer, Senate District 2, presenting Missouri Senate Bill 142, which is a bold and necessary step to protect the God-given rights of every law-abiding citizen within our state. This legislation is not just about firearms, as some will say. It's about safeguarding the very principles that define us as a free people. The right to due process, the right to bear arms, and the right to stand against government overreach. In our state, we hold fast to the belief that our freedoms are non-negotiable. The Second Amendment is clear. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet across this nation, we see a growing push for so-called red flag laws, measures that allow the government to swoop in, seize legal firearms from legal citizens, and strip them of their inalienable rights based upon mere accusations without a hearing on the merits or the right to confront their accuser. This is not liberty and justice. This is tyranny cloaked as safety. Senate Bill 142 declares in no uncertain terms that any federal order or judicial edict which occurs minus due process to confiscate firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition from law-abiding Missourians is an affront to our Second Amendment rights. Due process is the beating heart of American justice. It's the promise enshrined in the 5th and 14th Amendments that no one, no matter who they are, can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without a fair hearing and an opportunity to face their accuser. Red flag laws turn the presumption of innocence on its head, treating gun owners as guilty until proven innocent based on hearsay or unproven claims. And just think about it. Under these laws, a disgruntled neighbor, an angry ex-spouse, or even an overzealous bureaucrat could petition a court to take away your firearms, your property, your inalienable right, without you even knowing that it's happening. No notice, no hearing, no chance to defend yourself, guilty until proven innocent. The first you'd hear of it is when law enforcement shows up at your door to confiscate your lawful firearms. Stripping away due process doesn't make us safer, it makes us vulnerable. If someone is truly a danger, we have laws to address that. As cited in this bill, laws that respect evidence, that demand proof, and that give the accused their day in court. Our laws allow for judges to order, after a hearing on the merits, someone to be disarmed throughout the pendency of the order of protection. That is already occurring today, and that is going to be solidified within this bill as well. Disarming the innocent without cause does not stop crime. It punishes law-abiding citizens and emboldens those who seek to control us. And with that, I know we're on a short schedule. I will open it up to any questions.
Any questions for the senator? Any at all? Senator Washington? Proceed.
Hi, friend.
I like the green you wore today.
Thank you. Can you point for me what scripture gives us the God-given right to guns?
Well, to defend ourselves, our property, our families.
But what scripture does that?
I'll have to grab my Bible that's upstairs in my office and report back to you.
Thank you. Now, we don't currently have red flag laws in this state,
Correct.
correct? So do you have some examples of where this has happened in our state?
Yeah, so actually back in 2023, Missouri got $5.4 million from the feds for crisis intervention, risk protection orders, and to implement red flag laws if passed nationally. So this is trying to get ahead of the curve. I know that we've had many bills. I've worked with now Senator McCreary when we were both in the House on this issue, and I pointed out several instances where I've actually dealt not necessarily with a red flag, but with ex-spouses that were trying to strip an individual during the pendency of a divorce of their Second Amendment rights.
But did that actually happen?
It didn't, and it actually...
So we don't actually have an example in Missouri where someone's gun was taken under federal red flag laws?
Not that I'm aware
without
of.
due process?
But we are seeing the national trend, and we are seeing the push for it in
So
in
would
some
you
of the
be
legislation.
open to instituting some sort of red flag law that we can protect our domestic violence victims who, when they are abused, that maybe the abuser does not have access to that gun during the pendency of that case, so that we don't have men and women that are killed as a result of continuing to have their guns after committing domestic violence?
Well, Senator, I'm always open to discussing how to make bills better. And similar to the former crime bill that we just passed, I'm open to any discussion on how to
You didn't
protect
put my
our
gun
citizens.
stuff in there, though.
I'll put your training stuff in there.
No, I mean my juvenile gun stuff.
Well, on the gun topic, I will say that when it comes to domestic violence victims, we do have an avenue for them to file orders of protection, have expedited hearings where due process is honored. And that's the biggest crux
But we
of this.
don't have anything that says they have to give up their gun.
Well, they do, pursuant to these sections that we listed down at the bottom of the first page, disqualified under section 455, 050, or 571, 070.
But those are not ex parte. Those are just applicable once a crime has been charged.
Well, even with the ex partes, the orders of protection, after hearing on the merits, the judges do have the ability. It's not a shall; it is a may, depending upon the merits of the case, to strip the individual that the order of protection is
during the
ordered
order
upon.
of protection, right?
During the
And
pendency.
how long are orders of protection usually?
Well, I think typically, it's a year or 2 years. It's been a while since.
Year, 1
But
year.
then they can request them to be continued. And I
Right,
know
they
there's
have to go back through court and spend
Correct.
that money and that sort of thing.
so there is a
So
process.
who are we? So what is your idea of where we should protect those who are in danger from those who have guns?
Well, I think we do have a process to protect individuals that believe that someone is a threat to them, someone is a threat to themselves. I do think that we need to kind of piggyback off of a national trend in increasing the mental health abilities, the mental health treatment for individuals that may be a threat to themselves or even a threat to other people. But presently, if we believe that someone is going to be a threat, we have the order protection process. If an individual has committed a crime and they become a felon based upon this law, we're honoring that they can be stripped of their Second Amendment rights as well, depending upon how they plead in that case.
One last question. You said without due process. So where do you believe that due process starts?
Well, I believe in the red flag laws, they minus due process. They don't have due process because they're guilty until proven innocent in so many
How
ways.
so?
If I call up and file a complaint that I'm your neighbor and indicate that you've threatened me with a firearm, and a judge signs off on it in a state that has red flag laws, I will get an order. The police will come to you, putting themselves in danger because you don't know that I've made this call. Heck, you might not even have ever made a threat to me. It could just be that we have a a lawn dispute or something to where I am the aggressor and not you. But I call, file a complaint on you. They knock on your door and take your guns away before you've ever had a chance to confront your accuser.
But we have not had that happen in Missouri.
As far as I know, we have not.
And they would file an ex parte order petition.
Correct, and
Right.
have that expedited, have a
Which
very
is
fast hearing.
when I call and just say that you pointed your gun at me and hit me upside my head with it, and
Well,
when
and
they
that's a
serve
totally
you,
different
no,
instance.
no,
If
it's
you- if
not.
somebody
An
pointed
ex
a gun at
parte
you,
is.
then that would be a criminal offense as well.
But what I'm saying is, the process that you said that our victims should go through is ex parte. And it's basically the exact same example that you just gave about the neighbor calling on me, because that ex parte order is issued immediately upon me filing that. There is an order of protection immediately as soon as I file it. So are you saying that we're taking the guns then, or waiting until after a hearing?
In the state of Missouri, you are going to wait until after the hearing, as I think the Constitution dictates. But in other states that are not honoring due process, they're assuming that that person is guilty as charged, and then allowing them to plead their case days, weeks later.
Is that different from, say, when someone calls and says a parent is abusing their child and the child is immediately taken out of the home before a hearing?
I think there needs to be additions to our current laws and amendments to our current laws, because I think in many of those situations it is just as egregious. And you see it on social media right now of individuals that are claiming they had done nothing wrong. I know of one instance where it's not my constituent, but somebody who reached out to us indicating that they took their young child to an ER. There's nothing wrong with it. That they found on tests, x-rays and stuff, but they knew as a parent that something truly was wrong with their kid, brought it to another facility where their child was taken away because there were claims that so many different bones were broken. And about a year later, it was discovered, no, there was an error. Here's your child back. And I think that, when it comes to...
Or like when people are picked up off the street because someone said they're an illegal immigrant and they may or may not be, they may actually be a U.S. citizen. Would that be something that you'd be open to adding, that our U.S. citizens must have some sort of hearing before they're picked up and moved to El Salvador?
I believe that there is a hearing process federally.
Well, there is still a guy from Jersey who's down in El Salvador. He's been there for longer than we've been in session this year, and he is a U.S. citizen
I'm unfamiliar.
with no
wholly
due
unfamiliar with
process.
that.
All right. I know I said last, but are you aware of what our U.S. senators, what their position on this is?
I try not to pay attention to Washington, D.C., as I believe it is a swamp. But
this
our
is
two
a
senators,
federal law that you're trying
right,
to...
but our two senators, I will say, have indicated that they are in favor of, or at least someone from their office has indicated they are in favor of an anti-red flag law in the state of
that's
Missouri.
funny, because they voted for the current law, so that's different for me. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor of the bill? Slide down.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Aaron Dorr on behalf of the Missouri Firearms Coalition. The senator stole my entire speech verbatim, so I have nothing left to say. We support this bill fully. As you heard, red flag laws allow people who have never been charged, let alone convicted of a crime, have their guns taken away from them. We're trying to prevent that from happening here in Missouri. We have at least 3, maybe 4 bills currently filed this session in this building from folks who do want to enact red flag laws in this state. We're trying to get ahead of that with this legislation, SB142. As you heard, it requires you to be convicted of a violent felony crime or face other certain provisions in 455.050 or 571.070 before you can lose your gun rights. We clarify this does not apply to the feds. We're not trying to tell the feds what they can and cannot do with this law. It simply restrains Missouri officers from enforcing red flag laws. We clarify firearms can be seized during an investigation of an ongoing criminal action, and there are civil penalties in the law to make sure we have compliance. I can go on for about 20 more minutes. That's the bill in a nutshell. We're in full support of it. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions of this witness?
Of course.
Senator Washington.
Hi, Mr. Dorr.
Senator.
Do you have any Missouri examples where we've taken the guns without investigation and/or due process?
No, we are bent to make sure that never happens here in Missouri. That's
Okay,
the
so
point of
we
this bill.
haven't had it.
Not
Is
yet.
there any time, then you mentioned that I guess it's your stance that the guns can be removed after conviction of a violent crime?
That's
Is that-
current law, yes, Senator.
Okay, do you believe that's the only time that someone's gun should be removed?
Well, current law also allows for it to happen under.
I didn't ask what the current law was. The question was, is that what you believe?
There needs to be a conviction in a court of law for a crime before some have their guns taken away. Yes,
But do
that'd be
you
our-
believe it has to be a violent crime?
It needs to be a violent felony crime.
So are you familiar with the criminal justice system where one can be charged with a violent crime, but they can plead something lower that would take the violence out, but they are still a danger to the victim of domestic violence with their gun?
Yeah, we've had many prosecutors not prosecute violent criminals in this state over the years, so we're well aware of situations that began as violent felonies that were eventually not convicted of violent felonies, yes.
Right, so let's say I hit my husband upside the head with a gun. I didn't shoot him, I just busted him upside the head and he had to get some stitches.
Ouch.
And I don't have no husband, just so everybody know that.
Okay.
Nor have I ever had my hand. The only time I've ever had my hand on a gun is in junior RTC and senior RTC at Mizzou. So that's it. No handgun ever. Just for clarification. So I busted him upside the head. I got charged with assault and battery in the first degree, but I pled it down to something that was a misdemeanor. But we still arguing, and he still makes me mad. Should I keep my gun so that the next time I could possibly shoot him?
There needs to be a line at which, we have a right to have firearms and not. And in society, we have traditionally said that needs to be a felony conviction, a violent felony conviction. You can do what-if games literally for days and days and days, but there's never going to be a perfect society. You're going to have to draw a line when people's freedoms can be taken from them and when they cannot.
Although
And
in this
and-
instance, we have actually in the state of Missouri not taken anyone's freedoms with this particular set of facts, right?
No, we certainly take people's firearms away for a violent felony conviction.
No, I'm saying
in
this
Missouri.
bill, the reason this bill is brought is not as a result to fix anything that happened in Missouri, but to make sure that we prevent something.
That's right, because again, we have 3 to 4, maybe even 5 different red flag bills that have been filed this session here in Missouri. So yes, we're trying to get ahead of this situation.
You mean like
before-
how we have anti-DEI bills, but we don't have any proof that DEI has actually meant more jobs for black people or people of color?
I don't lobby on DEI issues, Senator, so I
Okay.
can't speak to those bills. But I can say that there are dozens of gun control bills filed this session. 4 or 5 of them are red flag laws. This bill is designed to get out ahead of it.
Does the Firearms Coalition believe in any type of gun control?
If you're going to have a tank, you should have tracks on the treads to keep the city streets in one piece. That'd be our position. Yes, Senator.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other senator questions for the witness? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Susan Myers of the 20th. I volunteer alongside women who have experienced tragic and horrific violence in their lives, women who come out the other side resolved to never again be anyone's victim. They fully understand the dangers involved within domestic violence and yet are adamant in their belief that secretive firearm confiscation laws without due process can easily be used to disarm the very women they are purported to keep safe. Unfortunately, there's no national data set to track extreme risk protection orders, as I would love to dive in to bring you more info on how often they are abused, including the by who and whys. In the absence of that, let me share a personal anecdote. In November 2022, red flag laws were in the news due to the Club Q nightclub shootings in Colorado Springs. Included in the stories was talk about the millions of dollars being allocated to the states in an effort to encourage more red flag law implementation. I bring this up because on Thanksgiving Day, while we were at my mom's, my husband got a call warning him that his estranged brother was talking about how he couldn't wait to red flag my husband as soon as red flags made it to Missouri. The mutual friend told how he had warned the brother that my husband didn't mess with him at all and he needed to just leave him alone. Despite his being unable to follow through at that time, the friend felt my husband needed to be given a heads-up warning about the situation. Keep in mind, a red flag order that disarms my husband disarms me as well as we share our home. My husband, who spent his entire life putting others above himself, gave his blessing to share this with you. He said he's okay with his ugly family situation being shared as a warning of what will happen if the states put the lust for gun seizure above that of due process. We both strongly recommend concentrating on the mental health side of this instead, using the 96-hour hold law to get potentially dangerous people off the street, assessed, and treated before they hurt themselves or others. In the meantime, I'm left having to hope someone wallowing in bitterness and misery doesn't get tired of waiting for red flags in Missouri and decides swatting might be a suitable alternative. I ask you to keep red flags out of our state.
Questions for this witness?
Yes.
Senator Washington, go ahead.
Hi, thank you again for being here. Could you repeat your name and where you're from again?
Susan Myers of the 20th
The 20th what?
district down around Greene County, in Greene County.
Okay. What 96-hour hold are you referring to?
It's the involuntary, I don't know, I just looked up to see what time. It's when someone may be having a mental crisis and they can involuntarily be held while they're assessed.
Do you believe that everyone who uses a gun in a domestic violence incident is mentally ill?
I have no idea. That would be a case
I'm asking because you brought
basis.
this up, ma'am. You said that they can go to a 96-hour
I-
hold, and that's that's for people that go into a mental institution voluntarily, actually, for 96 hours at the most. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yes, my point was there is due process involved.
There is no
in
due
doing
process
that.
for a 96-hour hold. That's not a court-ordered situation. Due process doesn't start until you're in the court system. Are you familiar with that?
My knowledge is minimal, so I won't argue, the points.
Okay,
But
yeah, 96-hour hold is like, I knew someone in my community who said that they were Jesus. And I'm not trying to make fun, I'm a Christian. And we're doing some really crazy things to themselves and the children around them. Unless a court orders them to be there, we can take them there, but they can only be held for 96 hours. That's at their own time. My last question is, you said that there were no statistics on, say, like domestic violence victims from guns. Is that what you said?
on extreme risk protection orders, there's no database to go in and see how many are filed for particular instances, whether it's domestic violence or whether it's the threat of suicide. There's no way. Every state has different ways that they implement their red flags.
Have you talked to domestic violence shelters about this?
I haven't talked to shelters. I hang with the ladies that come out the other side.
Okay, because the Center for Disease Control, which is a federal agency, does have some numbers. One of them is that every month 76 women are killed by a gun. In fact, there are, in gun violence total, 60% of gun violence in America is from domestic violence. So I'd be more than happy to work with you so we can get those statistics that are there, but they are out there. If they weren't, we probably wouldn't be able to fund like domestic violence shelters and other places of protection for men and women who have been subjected to that. But thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any further witnesses to testify in favor of Senate Bill 142? Anyone else here in favor? All right, we're going to alternate to those in opposition. Anyone here to testify against Senate Bill 142? Anyone here to testify for informational purposes only? Well, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 142. Next, we're going to go to Senator Gregory, Little Gregory, yep. Sorry. Senator, just proceed when you're ready on
Thank
Senate
you.
Bill
I'll take that.
669.
I've heard the lesser Gregory as well, so I'll take little Gregory. I'm cool with that. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Gregory, Senate 15. Before you is Senate Bill 669, the Halo bill, and I'm excited to present this to you because Senator Washington is going to love it. Here's the deal. Number one, the first thing it does is we have what's called the Line of Duty Compensation Act. So if you die in the line of duty, in that course and scope, you get a $25,000 death benefit. We'll give you $25,000 for dying in the line of duty in Missouri. That is set to sunset here coming up in June. So not only am I removing the sunset altogether, but I'm taking it from $25,000 and up to $100,000 a year. And in my opinion, $100,000 is still not even a fraction of what they deserve, but it is certainly a much better situation than $25,000 for the family. The other thing this bill does, it's called the Halo bill. It provides a halo of protection for first responders when they're in their line of duty. So right now we're hearing a lot from a lot of police officers, but also paramedics, even firemen at times. TikTok and Instagram are becoming popular, and folks like to come up and put their phones in their face and get a little aggressive, and policemen especially are trying to decide, do I arrest them for interference? What exactly does that look like? Let's arrest them or not. And we're trying to walk the line of doing what's right. All right, our folks deserve to use their phones. Our folks deserve to be watching our first responders. At the same time, our first responders deserve a area of protection that they can do their duty with without any potential harm, potential threats, or issues there. And so that's what this bill does. It seeks to provide first responders 25 feet of protection. You can't get within that 25 feet. And there's a lot of protections in here. For example, first, that you have to be warned. So it's not like you're just getting arrested for this if you're within 25 feet. You have to be warned. And then, of course, number two, you have to have an illegitimate or a bad reason that you are doing that within 25 feet. And this bill sets that out. If you're looking to impede or interfere with their ability, if you're threatening them with physical harm, or otherwise engaging in specific types of conduct, then and only then are you found guilty of this crime. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Senator Washington, proceed.
I'm pretty sure other people have questions, but y'all never talk in here, and we just not gonna let you slide.
Oh, you're going to like this bill, Senator?
Absolutely not. I'm one of those people that just recently was asked for my birth certificate when I was stopped for a traffic ticket, which is why I've not combed my hair most of this session, because when my hair is curly, one seems to think that I may not be American. In fact, they started speaking to me in Spanish, that officer, and I don't remember any Spanish. And yes, it did happen. And I don't ever say I'm a senator. I've never said that. I've never, when I was a prosecutor, I didn't do that. Now I will flick my little badge though, but I don't have a badge anymore. And so I would have wanted someone to be there in case something happened. But first, let's talk about the 25,000. I do like that part. However, I do want to know who's going to pay it.
The state. That's a death benefit from the state.
Okay, and
Yes, ma'am.
what is the fiscal note on that? Do you know?
I may not if I got it, I didn't see it in time.
Okay, you can get that information to me, or, you know, how many folks.
Yeah, how many we pay a year, we'll know that.
Uh-huh,
Times
and
75,000
then
extra bucks.
in the bill, have you thoroughly identified who the first responders are? We're just talking about police. We're talking about the ambulance folks. We're talking about firefighters. Who are we talking about?
That's right. So it is very well defined, and it's been in law for years. It's pretty expansive. We're talking anywhere from the obvious ones to air ambulance pilots. We're talking about air ambulance registered nurses that are on.
And we have, and so we have examples where folks have interfered within 25 feet with our ambulance and our firefighters.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the death benefits. So we're going to the HALO bill now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes, same thing, much less expansive. So yes, a much more narrow definition. Let me get you the exact first responders definition in there. Hang on. Okay, here it is. First responders defined on page 9 there under subsection 4. You'll see first responder is any law enforcement officer, firefighter, paramedic, emergency medical technician, and EMT, or advanced EMT. So that's it.
So if they have my mom in the ambulance, and I run up to say, hey, that's my mom, I'm going to get arrested because you told me not to come.
No, well,
I'm
first off,
sorry,
if
let me
it's-
make it better.
Yeah, you're
My
gonna have to-
grandson is in the ambulance, and I'm running up there to verify that that's my grandson, and you told me don't come, don't approach. I'm gonna get arrested for trying to make sure my grandson is alive, well, and
Technically, you already can, and that's why I like this. This actually provides further protections. Technically, you could already be arrested for that right now, for interfering with that. But what this does is it requires a verbal warning, which is great. I think. That's
no,
a
I
good
said
thing.
I got the warning, but I still ran because that's my grandson
And
in
then
front
it
of a
says
burning
you
house.
have to have no legitimate purpose. So, for example, you would have a very legitimate purpose there. You're going to win. Number one, I don't think a prosecutor's prosecuting for that. But number two, even if they tried, they would fail under this law.
Can you point out to me where in your bill it defines legitimate purpose?
Same page. Go to. I'm telling you, Senator, I'm going to get you on this one. You're going to like it. Page 9. You see subsection C, engaging in course of conduct at the end there, and serves no legitimate purpose.
No, that's what your intent is.
Of course.
It says, okay, so when is it not a legitimate purpose?
Well, and as you know, that's what a jury is here to try, right? They're going to be the finder of that fact. But
You're a personal injury attorney, right?
That's right.
And I can have emotional distress even though I wasn't the person physically injured, right? As long as I might have gone, if I watch my husband
Oh, the old law
die
school case.
in a car accident, and I watched that, they hit us, and then I watched my husband's head fall off in that accident. Could I not have emotional distress from that?
Yeah, but I mean, in personal injury, it's actually much more buttoned up. You have to prove that you have a diagnosable condition. Have been
I know.
seeking
I just need
treatment.
to go to the psychiatrist. I understand all that, but my point is, could I in fact have emotional distress from seeing that?
I would think so. Personally, yeah.
So
Under the
if
color of law,
I
think-
live in a community where 10 young African American men have been shot by the police, and I see that the police is throwing a young man on the ground, and I know that my brother was one of those people killed, could that not possibly inject PTSD with me, which is a definite AMA approved emotional distress diagnosis?
This
And
is
you're
about
telling
emotional
me-
distress to the first responder. It's not about the.
I know that. So my point is, I live in a community where the cops kill young black men. Let me just go on and use the real one. Would this have caused the young lady who videotaped the George Floyd murder to be arrested?
I'd have to rewatch the facts. but
She's
she
within
would have had
25 feet.
She would have had to been verbally warned,
She was.
and then she would have to have either threatened a first responder with physical harm. Did she do that?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't either. But let's go
But
through
where
it here.
does
Let's
it
go
say
through the
that they
bill.
have to threaten?
Right, same page, page 9.
Or, it's threaten or.
Correct, let's keep
Or
going. It's
engage
or.
in the course of conduct directed as a first responder, which intentionally causes emotional stress in that first responder.
And serves no legitimate purpose. It's got to serve no legitimate purpose.
So
That's-
we can we agree that it did serve a legitimate purpose since the young man, the man is in jail?
I would, if none
Found
of these
guilty by
others
a
are
jury of
met,
his peers.
I don't think she ever would have been arrested. I think she could in some states today. That's why I think this is actually better.
Okay, I think 25 feet is too long. It's too far. That's a quarter of a football field.
No,
and
that's yards. This is feet.
whatever, it's too far. I think that's too far, especially considering what
That's
people
not
of
very far.
color and poor folks, not just people of color, but poor folks, have experienced with our officers, and things have gotten worse. I used to be one of those people that bragged about my police department after Michael Brown died in St. Louis. We don't do that. And now we didn't kill somebody every year. You know, we threw a 17 and a half year old girl who was 7.5 months pregnant on the ground. Her baby is going to be messed up for the rest of her life. And if one did not videotape that, it would have been her word against the officer's word.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd be willing to work with you on this, but 25 feet, and it's just kind of loose as to what that legitimate purpose is going to be. And you're going to arrest me. I'm going to be charged with a crime. And then I'm going to have to prove my legitimate purpose in court when I just watched you shoot my brother, or I just watched you throw him down, or Officer DeValconaire, I watched you and I was able to videotape you putting a gun in the decedent's hand. So I think that there is too much vagueness in this, personally, and it may be we just live in different communities and see different things, and even, me being a criminal defense attorney, I see things that a videotape would have helped, especially if officers don't turn their cameras on, or some police departments who can't afford the cameras, or some police departments who have a grant that they can get the cameras and they won't. So I think we got a lot of work to do on this. This is almost as egregious as your bounty hunter
Really?
bill.
Same category.
It is the same category.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there questions for the senator from the committee? Seeing none, are there any witnesses testify? What? Are there any witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward. I might remind the witnesses too, we have another bill to get through, so if we can, we'll keep our testimony short. How many witnesses do we have in favor of? Opposition? Okay, go ahead.
Jay Schroer, Missouri FOP. I'm just here to testify in favor of both parts of the bill, and I will stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for this witness from the committee?
No.
All right, seeing none, next witness testifying in favor of the bill. Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, Trent Ford, registered lobbyist for the Ambulance District Association, Missouri. I'd like to go on record and support.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any witness? Oh, we have another witness testifying in favor of.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Tempill here on behalf of the Missouri Ambulance Association. I want to go on record in support of the line of duty death benefit from $25,000 to $1 million. Senator Washington. 25,000 to 100,000. My correction. Today, I apologize. What we've seen over the years is usually it's 2 people or less that impacts every year, but it's a great benefit for those folks on the first responder side.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Scott Swain, representing Missouri Police Chiefs Association. Just want to go on record. And Brent has an amendment for the $1 million. Take it up too.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Any witnesses to testify in opposition? For informational purposes only. All right. Next bill we have up is the larger of the Gregorys, Senate Bill 715. Whenever you're ready, Senator.
I will say I am jealous of the head of hair the smaller Gregory has. All right, for the record, Curtis Gregory, State Senator, 21st District. Before you today is Senate Bill 715, the Missouri Port Authority Modernization Bill. I'd say much like my fireworks bill that I had in here like the first week or two of session. The Port Authority Act was established in 1974 and has remained mostly unchanged for the 50 years that it's been in effect, and the key objectives of Senate 15 is to protect public resources, ensure responsible management and accountability, promote economic development, and enhance public safety. As we know, we've got two kind of major rivers running through our state, the Missouri and the Mississippi, and the more goods that we can place on the rivers in our waterways and using that natural resource called water to move to port and service, that's the more that's going to be off of our state highway system. So I look forward to getting this passed and improving our port system. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there questions from the committee for Senator Weber?
Whose fireworks bill was it?
I'm sorry, Senator. Our firework bill.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah, you were here in spirit that day.
I was. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there other questions for the Senator Washington?
What's the reason for bringing this bill? Are things not working now?
I think there's some people that can talk to it a little bit better, but there's a lot of different points. It's just modernizing it, streamline improvement district creations, expand procurement tools, regional port authority cooperation supports regional port authority cooperation to avoid duplication, minimum qualifications for commissioners.
My friend's going to get mad, but I'll wait for him to get up there and ask a few questions. Not you, friend.
It'll be perfect. One of the things in here that I think was a little bit of a driver, it would allow for there to be port rangers similar to park rangers to assist local law enforcement. That way there'd be more of an on-site kind of security team, much like the now Chairman's Park Rangers they have in St. Louis. What park was that? Much like what they have like in Forest Park, there'd be people on staff at some of these ports to keep a watch over, because probably sometimes millions of dollars worth of equipment and or cargo that to have that site on there afford the extra security to that, where it might take local law enforcement longer to get there.
Now, us hiring park rangers, that ain't going to violate federal executive orders, is it? Because we ain't got no park rangers at Yellowstone now.
Well, it wouldn't be. They wouldn't be federally paid. They'd be, I guess, for lack of better terms, port paid.
Okay, thank you.
And does this bill, does it have like stimulus packages to improve the existing ports? Did I hear you correct?
I don't believe it has any stimulus in it right now. It was just about streamlining, making.
I wish Senator Bean was here to put his input on this, because I'm telling you, I think that by making our ports more secure, especially in southeast Missouri, with specific to the Boot Hill, this could be a huge deal for their economy down there, which they desperately need jobs. And I think we've neglected our ports in this state for a lot of years. And this is a good bill. I'll be proud to vote for it.
Well, I think we can point to probably how the river's been managed for many years from our Corps of Engineers, and not wanting to dredge it, not wanting to release proper water flows from up in the dams in the northern reaches of the country, to leave it to where we can actually have fully loaded barges going up and down it. I'm happy to see, right now in my Senate district, Cooper County Port, I'm going to be able to load barges and grain. Bring in fertilizer. There in Brunswick, it's just out of my district, but that's where a lot of fertilizer for my co-op comes from. Bringing fertilizer up, shipping grain back down, just lowers the cost of everything.
Well, the Dakotas are a good example of what happens when you don't take care of the rivers to where you have barge traffic and and I don't know, I think this is a long time coming, a first step in the right direction on improving our ports in the state.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions for the Senator? All right, seeing none, are there any witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Senators. John Stevens, President and CEO of Port KC. With me is Brian Ravenel, also with Port KC. The 19 port authorities, as were mentioned, are a really diverse group of organizations throughout the state, from the Boot Heel to St. Louis to the northeast to Kansas City. They're vital and have been vital in moving goods and services throughout our state efficiently and effectively, from ag commodities, but also there's so much more than that. We provide economic growth, jobs, redevelopment of land, and improve our communities daily. The Missouri ports continue to lead in government efficiency. As has been mentioned, for many years they've done more with less on a regular basis. The underlying statute of Chapter 68, as the Honorable Senator has mentioned, has remained largely unchanged for 50 years. SB715 will bring improvements needed to maintain our ports as vital partners in the growth of logistics, workforce, and jobs in Kansas City and throughout all of our port districts. This bill is simple, but it is vital to help maintain Missouri as a pro-business state that works. Our Missouri ports are Team Missouri, and we work daily with the Department of Economic Development and our local communities to attract jobs and development. In Kansas City alone, we've attracted more than 5,000 new jobs in the last 5 years and have spurred $2 billion in private investment in our port district. Those are jobs and investments that would have gone to neighboring states without our port authorities. So as we look at this bill, I'm urging you to approve it. There is no fiscal note, and it is driven by accountability, efficiency, public safety, and economic development. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for the witness? Senator Washington.
Hi, friend. Thank you for coming down.
Hello, Senator.
I'm very familiar with what our Port Authority does. And you just talked about how much money investment did we have?
Just right at $2 billion in the last 5 years.
How long a time?
In about 5 years.
How much was given in incentives?
In incentives? That is hard to classify, but it's all net new dollars that are brought into our community. So
is there any tax abatement or deference on any of that?
Yes, Senator. Any payment in lieu of taxes that are granted are in order to attract and grow jobs in the state of Missouri. And so we work and we evaluate those and we limit those as much as possible.
And our Port KC, is it just limited to the port area, or how far out do you go with that?
The port district, as established by the city of Kansas City, Missouri, is the city limits of Kansas City, Missouri, Senator.
Are there ports throughout this? Well, don't you go out to Richard Gabar?
Yes, but only in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yes.
Is Richard Gabar still an active military base?
No. Port KC took that on after it was BRAC'd as part of the Federal Base Realignment and Closure Act, and have brought back jobs through CPKC Railroad and through Intermodal, and have brought almost 2,500 jobs to that site, quality paying jobs from
at Richards Gabar?
At Richards Gabar, the former air base that is now 49 Crossing. We have rebranded.
I know where it is. My dad was military.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So you know why I'm asking you these questions. And so I'll just go public. You know, it concerns us on the east side of Kansas City that there's not this type of development, and the taxes that are lost to our school district libraries and first responders. So while I love what Port KC does, I don't like the fact that there is disparity in the development that Port KC assists with. I don't like the fact that if you're turned down by TIF Commission, you turn around and you come to Port KC and you get the same benefits. That doesn't seem fair. Especially on my side of town where we're not getting any development. So if we can get some development over east of Truce, where houses, let's say east of Paseo, because I want to take those $800,000 houses out. You know what I'm talking about. Then that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Senator. If I may respond very briefly to that, I would say that the Blue River Corridor, the former AK Steel site, Missouri River Terminal, part of this bill would help that, as well as our partners in the Boot Heel with some of their redevelopment of former steel mill sites. So the east side will be there, as well as this bill would assist with workforce housing and development of areas such as Parade Park. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I'm not familiar with all port authorities. A representative tried to embarrass me when I was in the House. So you said there are 19?
There are currently 19 port authorities. They are all vital. We all work together, and they are all in support of this.
No, so I'm going to ask you, where are some of them at? They're all on the Missouri or the Mississippi River?
Yes.
So, like, does Boonville have one? Or
Mid-Missouri, Jefferson City, Mid-Missouri. There's Hannibal, there's St. Louis County, St. Louis City, there's Cape Girardeau, there's throughout the Boot Heel. They're very vital
that's what I
parts.
thought when he tried to embarrass me in the
And
House.
St.
Okay.
Joseph, Missouri. They're a partner with Kansas City as well.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thank you,
Thank
Senator.
you. So y'all going to work on help with Boonville?
We're working with all of our port authorities on a
Thank
regular
you.
basis. Thank you, Senator.
Are there any other questions for the witness? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill?
Senator, I'll just, for the record, Brian Rabineau with Port Authority of Kansas City, Missouri. The preceding witness already mentioned that I was here in support of the bill, mostly here just if I could answer any questions, but I will leave it at that since I know you've already covered it in detail.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? All right, seeing none, any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Jared Hankinson with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'll keep it brief. We are supportive of Senate Bill 715 in that it drives economy, brings new jobs to the state, supports existing businesses, brings new businesses to the state, and we're happy to see this legislation come before the committee. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, or any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill, whenever you're ready, please come forward.
Senator. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Zach Pollock with the Missouri Port Authority Association. I want to go on record in support of the bill as long as we have a wonderful sub that the Port Authority Association and Port KC worked out.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testifying in favor of the bill, whenever you're ready?
Afternoon. Susan Henderson Moore, going on record in favor on behalf of J.E. Dunn. Obviously have lots of experience working with the Port of KC and a lot of good economic development projects in the area.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in favor of? Are there any witnesses to testify in opposition?
Lisa Panett, Armorvine. There's a lot to oppose in this bill. The Port Authority, as it stands, is already a political subdivision of the state. This bill is allowing them to buy property in other states. Page 5 says that it allows them to cooperate with other public entities. That's how it was in current law, and this changes that to private corporations. Page 6 allows acquiring and mortgaging to fulfill purposes of the Port Authority, including but not limited to property in adjoining states. Page 7, they get to create and operate such agencies and departments as they deem useful. Page 8 with the park rangers, as we had already mentioned, they can create as many as they deem advisable, and it talks about an oath that conveniently leaves out the Constitution. It grants them the power to carry a firearm, maintain order, make arrests, and issue citations for state statutes and municipal ordinances. Page 8 is also exercising such powers and duties. The Board of the Port Authority Commissioners shall be empowered to act in lieu of the governing bodies. Page 13 gets rid of the lowest responsible bidder for contracts. Page 15, any expenditure to be competitively bid was placed at $25,000, and now it increases that to $50,000. And it also has the Port Authority shall have the power and authority to reject any bids and proposals. And finally, page 27, when the Port Authority is their own political subdivision, they don't need to petition the circuit court. And so certification of any question with respect to any tax proposed to be levied or modified shall be made by the Board of the Port Authority Commissioners and thereafter provided to the election authority. So we're just creating a complete a political subdivision with no parameters. They're going to be everything from beginning to end. And I would say this would be a completely unconstitutional measure, in my opinion. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions for this witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in opposition to this bill? Are there any witnesses testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, do you have any final remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committees look forward to working on this in the future.
All right, thank you. With no other business coming before the committee, do I have a second, or I make a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? I have a second. We're adjourned.